Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's debate. My name is Jenna Mufti, and today I'll be your moderator for the evening. Let's begin with a journey through Saudi art, from the carved tombs of Al-Ula to the mud brick homes of Diriyah to the immersive exhibitions we see today. As time changed, space changed, and as space changed, the way we experience art has also changed. In the past, art was not something that needed to be stopped and analyzed. It was a part of their lives, in their homes, in their buildings, in objects people used daily. People did not need explanations. They lived in art. They lived with art and they understood it in their own way. Today, things are different. We walk into exhibitions that are interactive and immersive, and sometimes unclear. Spaces that make us feel something and later maybe explain it. And this is where our main question begins. Is feeling something enough to create meaning? Or do we need to understand the artist's perspective or message for it to truly matter? We stand in front of artwork, and are we connecting with the artist? Or are we simply reacting with our own emotions? Does the audience complete the artwork? Or is it changing its meaning? Is participation enough? Or meaning needs context, culture, and explanation? These questions are at the heart of how we experience art today, especially as Saudi art continues to grow and reach the world. So today we ask, does understanding matter? Or is experience enough? And the motion before us is, an exhibition does not need to be fully understood to be meaningful. Speaking for the motion, arguing that meaning begins with feeling, not analysis. We begin with opening statements. For the motion, you have the floor.
Yes, it's working. Thank you. When we think about art, we often connect it with explanation, but this was not always the case. In the Saudi world traditional presented in our exhibition, art was connected and appeared with textile, calligraphy, and mud brick architecture. No labels, no text, or guided tours. Even without explanation, these forms still carried a meaning. Shows identity, community, and belief, even when people are not analyzed them, but people lived with them every day. Today, we can see a similar idea. When you walk into an exhibition and you feel some curiosity or discomfort or even wonder, this is not a confusion. This is the idea of the meaning itself. Meaning doesn't wait for understanding. You feel it first, and sometimes this is all you need. Let me ask you a question. What does meaning really mean to you? Do you need to fully understand something for it to matter, or feeling is enough? Meaning is not always for clear answers, explanation, or text. Meaning is your emotion, your experience through the space, and the memory that stays with you after you left. For example, many people listen to poetry or see calligraphy without noticing or knowing every single word, but they still feel their beauty and the power. Looking at art today, we notice a shift. Saudi art has no longer observed something to observe. It's surrounding us with desert installation, impressive digital environment, and interactive spaces where the audience becomes a part of it. In these moments, your body reacts. You feel the heat, the light, the scale, and even the silence around you. You're not just looking on the art, you're feeling it, you're inside it. You may not understand everything, but you'll never forget how it made you feel. So when you leave, what stays with you, not the explanation, not the text, what stays with you, your emotion, and how you felt in this moment. What if art is not something that we look at, but something that we step into? Today, this is exactly what we see. Saudi art has no longer something that we observe. It's something that's surrounding us. We are a part of it. Art is not something that we have to understand it. It's something that is talking about transformation.
Today, the audience play a very important role in art. In ancient Saudi society, people were not separate from art. Art was a part of their daily life. They saw it in textile, curved door, traditional decoration. Nobody explained this thing to them, but they still understood and connected with them every day because they lived with them every day. Modern art work in a similar way. Many exhibitions today are interactive and immersive. No need long explanation because they invite the audience to enter the space, react, and create their own interpretation. People can feel surprised, emotion, or inspired, even if they do not fully understand the artwork meaning. And this feeling itself, it's important. If art only had a meaning and when it was explained, the interactive art will not be successful. But in reality, interactive art is a sum of the strong and powerful art today because it feels personal to each visitor. Every person sees the artwork differently. One visitor may see it happiness, the other may see it sadness. That's not mean someone is wrong, but mean the artwork is alive and open for a different meaning. The audience is no longer just receiving the meaning from the artist, they help to create it. Understanding may give everyone the same answer, but experience allow each person to discover their own meaning.
Speaking against the motion, arguing that meaning requires grounding. You have the floor.
Thank you. Let me start with a question. If a visitor walks through an exhibition and assigns their own emotion to what they see, does that mean the artwork actually communicated something, or are they simply reacting based on their own thoughts in a beautiful space? Without understanding what we call meaning, becomes a personal projection. The visitor isn't really connecting with the artwork. They're reacting based on themselves in a beautiful space. Feeling something on its own creates an atmosphere, not true feeling. Our exhibition follows a journey from Saudi heritage filled deep with cultural, spiritual, and social significance to contemporary works that speaks about identity, change, and society. If we remove the need to understand, we reduce this rich dialogue into something purely visual. It may still be beautiful, but only become meaningful when we take the time to understand it. Saudi art is strongly connected to its heritage. Traditional patterns, mud brick shapes, and places like Al-Ala, Diriyah, or Vision 2030 are not random choices, but they carry international meaning rooted in its history, culture, and community. The visitor experience the exhibition without context, they're not truly engaging with Saudi art. Instead, they interrupt it through their own personal lens, which may not reflect the artist's message at all. Without context, people don't just misunderstand the culture, they intentionally replace it with their own perspective. If platforms like Diriyah Biennale aim to connect Saudi art with the world, then real dialogue requires shared understanding. Emotion alone isn't enough. Understanding is what creates that connection.
Let us remember who created the work. Artists are not simply making beautiful objects for open interpretation. They are communicating ideas, making careful decisions about material, scale, space, and symbols. Nothing is random, every detail is intentional. Many contemporary Saudi artists address important issues like urban change, environmental awareness, digital identity, and the tension between tradition and modernity. These works are not just to be seen, they are meant to be understood. But what can happen when they are not? When an exhibition is not understood, the communication fails, and the artist's message is lost and replaced by the viewer's own interpretation. Instead of hearing the artist's voice, we only hear ourselves. When artists create a work about displacement and the viewer leaves feeling peaceful, can we say that the artwork succeeded? We should say no, because the message did not reach us and the meaning was changed. An exhibition that is only experienced, not understood, is the one silences the artist, and silencing the artist goes against the purpose of Biennale.
Thank you to both sides for your opening statements. We have now heard two clear perspectives, one focusing on experience and personal meaning, and the other on understanding, context, and intention. We will now move on to the rebuttal round, where each side will respond directly to the arguments presented by the other, beginning with the side for the motion.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I'd like to thank my colleagues for their input. It's really enlightening to see the other perspective and the other side. But first of all, what does the word meaning mean? We have to assign a definition to it so we can have an equal playing field. I believe that meaning is to assign or affiliate something with a purpose. So what is the purpose of art? The purpose of art art in itself is communication. It's a dialogue. It's how I, the artist, tell you what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, without technically using words. So when we apply the opposition's view to, let's say, other fields, say quantum physics is something that we have been studying for ages, yet we still don't understand it. So does that lack of understanding mean that it does not have meaning in the grand scheme of the universe? Does it? It doesn't. It means it does have meaning. However, we are just not able to understand it just yet. Art has always been a conversation, a dialogue. It's been my way of telling you how things are politically, socially, personally even. So just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it's devoid of meaning. It just means that perhaps I didn't communicate it properly, or my form of communication, my experience, is not necessarily your experience either. So does this mean that art doesn't need meaning, or doesn't need interpretation for meaning? Not necessarily. It's usually a case-by-case situation. As our Prophet Muhammad said, peace be upon him, أَفَلَا شَقَقْتَ عَنْ قَلْبِهِ. So unless you truly rip somebody's heart open, look into the raw depths of their emotion, you will never truly comprehend the meaning of an art piece. And I would like to pass the mic to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. Now we turn to the side against the motion.
So the other side keeps talking about participation as if it's the ultimate goal. We agree that participation is great, but let's be real. Showing up isn't like understanding. Think about kids playing in a public fountain. They're playing, they're having fun, sure, but they aren't engaging with the architect's vision or the history of that square. They're just playing. An exhibition isn't a playground. It's a space built to tell stories about who we are, our identity, our future, and our history. If a visitor walks through the Diriyah Biennale and only feels vibes without actually getting the message, they aren't engaging with the architects. They aren't experiencing their own. They aren't experiencing the art. They're just experiencing their own mood. That makes the exhibition recreational, not meaningful. Now let's look at ambiguity. My colleagues calls it a gift, but I see it as a risk. When we show art that represent our heritage, like الدرعية, الجدة, and العلا, to the world, we want them to see the depth of our culture. If a tourist walks with zero context and just thinks, oh, this looks exotic and mysterious, have we actually succeeded? No, we didn't. That's a misreading. It shrinks our complex history down to a simple postcard image. Ambiguity only works if you have the knowledge to handle it. Without the right context, it just leads to misunderstanding. And in today's world, we can't afford to let our culture be misunderstood just because we want it to be mysterious.
Thank you. Before our closing statements, I would like to open the floor briefly. We have 2 questions for the audience. So the first question, has there been a moment in this exhibition or any other where you felt moved by something you did not fully understand, and what did it feel like? Anyone can respond. Please share your experiences with us. Anyone?
There's a piece, it's like an entryway with the music and the sounds. I think it's a very popular art piece.
Yeah.
While I didn't understand it, I didn't really read the panel that gets posted next to it. I just had feelings about the emotions and the sounds they used. It kind of gave me sounds of celebration, so I felt joy and some type of energy that came with it, but I didn't know if that was what the artist meant.
Pretty interesting. From the sounds of it, it sounds like you were celebrated instead of celebrating. So yeah, any other experiences anyone would like to share? All right, well, I have another question for you guys. Did any explanation, a wall text or a guide or a teacher improve your experience of an artwork, or did it reduce the magic? Please share your experiences. Mhm.
Passing from era to era and what he would see and
Mhm.
the plot. That just gives it a bit more meaning than just rocks.
Yeah, just rocks. Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting.
I have a bunch of other examples. But,
Yeah, please share.
right now, that's the first one that came up. I think of another one.
Mhm. Yeah.
About art, although it's not defined and I can't understand it, but I like how everything is together
Mhm.
and I can imagine and go through my emotions.
Yeah. So you get to create meaning from your own experiences.
Exactly.
That's really great. So thank you all who have answered. Is there any more? All right. Yeah, more? Okay. Thank you. What we were hearing reflects exactly that tension at the heart of today's discussion. We do not need art or experience to be in one fixed way. Sometimes we feel first, and sometimes we understand first, and sometimes we move between the two, and that is exactly why this debate matters. Now let us move to our closing statements. For the motion, you have the floor.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the audience's participation. You actually brought something to light, which was abstractism. Things like abstractism, cubism, deconstructivism. I'm pretty sure if I asked any of you, none of you would truly understand where that came from. That, my friends, came from the horrors of World War II, something that we, alhamdulillah, do not understand. So art is not something made for pure viewing pleasure. Art is made for communication. It is made for dialogue. It is made to connect oneself with not just an audience, but their own psyche. And this is something that's important. This is something we use for psych patients, something we use for everyday life. And on the topic of art not being a recreational medium, art is a recreational medium. You open different applications to find different things to do with your friends. The first things that come up are painting classes, pottery classes, or even aerial ballet. All these forms of art are recreational, and they should be enjoyed. And on the topic of playgrounds, it's not just a visual experience. It's a whole body experience. You, as a human, have 5 different senses. And each senses, us as architects, we aim to engage in these exhibitions, in these playgrounds, in these, even your office buildings are tailored specifically to engage each and one of these senses. But you, as the user, may not understand this. You may not experience it, but it is embedded inside your psyche to notice these things without necessarily acknowledging them. So the opposition states about our galleries as if we make them for the foreigners and tourists that come to our country. This is not purely for us to tell the world that this is who we are here. No, it's for us to give the artists themselves a platform to come and express themselves. Art is never made for pure viewing pleasure, as I mentioned before. Art is made to show you what it's like to be human, essentially. You have this desire to create, this desire to birth the emotion out of you and put it on a canvas or a sculpture. It's not just something that has to be assigned necessarily meaning to it. If an artist has to explain their artwork, it doesn't mean it's devoid of meaning. It just means that the artist is a poor communicator. And that's okay. We all sometimes lack in our communication skills. It's not necessarily something that is essential to creating art. So if I were to pick one of you, actually, how many people in the audience now are artists? Any form of art, any medium, sculpture making, painting, anything? I have one. Anybody else? 2, 3. I'm an artist myself, and I can tell you with full confidence, none of my art pieces have meaning to them. They are just scribbles and doodles and homework. But that doesn't mean that they have to have meaning. It's just for pleasure. And sometimes that pleasure is all we need. Pass the mic back to the moderator.
Thank you. Najla?
I want to start by giving credit where it's due. The other side has made some really beautiful points. We all agree that feeling matters. Sometimes art moves us before we even can say why. That power is real. But we aren't here to argue whether feelings are nice. We're here to ask if they are enough, and we believe they aren't. Think about where we are. As Saudi art goes global, as the Biennale brings the stories of Diriyah, Al-Ula, and Riyadh to people who have never been here, the risk of being misunderstood is huge. If a visitor walked through our history and leaves just thinking, oh, that looks pretty, we've actually failed. They haven't connected with us. They have just looked at a pretty picture and called it a meaning. Knowledge doesn't kill the magic. It makes it deeper. Take the mud brick walls of Diriyah as an example. You just look at them, they're just walls. But when you understand that this geometry was built to let the desert breathe, to protect the privacy of a family, and to hold a community together, suddenly, every inch of that wall is twice as amazing. You don't lose the wonder, you find more of it. As our artists focus on the future, like our environment and digital identity, they need to be clear. Their message gets lost just in vibes and sensation. The artist's voice is basically silenced. Meaning needs an anchor. It needs a bit of understanding to keep it from drifting away. We aren't against the experience. We just believe that experience plus understandings is the only way to create a meaning that actually lasts.
Thank you. We will now open the floor for an open discussion. I invite everyone to engage in response to any points raised.
So first of all, I'd like to welcome any questions from the audience. If you feel that any of the points we made, you have a question about it or want to raise a point, are more than welcome. Although I'd like to raise a question to you guys. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the opposition states that putting these artists on a stage and exhibition runs the risk of silencing them. However, isn't us putting them on this stage giving them a voice in the first place? What do you guys think? Come on, you guys. حركوا المجلس شوي. No, really, think about it. These artists, let's say Vincent van Gogh, for example, he tried to sell his art on more than one occasion when he was alive, but only after his death did he get money that he can't even use now. So what do you guys think? Is his voice truly out there in the world? Or is it just a means to make money? خلاص وصلت. شكراً.
Okay, thank you. What we have heard today are not just two opposing arguments, but two fundamentally different ways of experiencing art. One side reminds us that meaning can emerge before language, and the other reminds us of being present within a space. That not everything powerful can be explained, and perhaps it should not be. Behind every material, every symbol, every spatial decision, there is intention. And without understanding that intention, we may not be engaging the artwork, but only with ourselves. So where does that leave us? Perhaps meaning is not fixed. Perhaps it exists somewhere in between what is felt and what is understood. Because an exhibition today does not simply display art. It constructs an experience. It invites emotion, but also carries knowledge, history, and voice. So maybe the real question is not, do we need to fully understand art, but rather, how much are we willing to question what we feel, and how far are we willing to go to understand what we see? Saudi art, as we have explored, exists within that exact tension between heritage and horizon, between the local and the global, between ambiguity and clarity. And perhaps that tension is not something to be resolved. Perhaps that is where meaning is created. Thank you, everyone. All right, so now we have an open floor discussion for anyone who has any questions for the debaters for either sides, and just keep the conversation going.
That's actually a good question. And sometimes people like to assign the meaning to how much effort was put behind that piece. So a dot has no effort. A dog could do that. A cat could do that. Anybody could do that. You even have animals just having paint on their nose and printing it on a canvas, and then people call that art. And they sell it, and they monetize it. Art is not just something that's creative. It's political. It's social. It runs so many aspects that even I don't understand, or even the great artists of the world don't understand. So I guess you could say that it only has meaning when you assign the meaning to that thing.
Yeah, but don't you think that the value of that, their point, if the artist gave it meaning, that's what I felt because of that would give it more value to the people. So I guess give it a meaning more.
So when you talk about value, I believe that there are two different kinds of value. There's emotional value, and then there's monetary value. If you look at contemporary art nowadays, they're only made purely to monetize. When I say that, oh, this piece of artwork expresses how we are all trapped inside our own psyches, I could just be lying, just to make a quick buck. So what kind of meaning are you speaking when you speak about meaning communicating to other people? Is it monetary or creative?
It doesn't necessarily have to be in terms of money. It just has to be relatable to the people. Like the value, the emotional value of the canvas itself. So when I see that canvas with the dot, I can relate to it, and that gives me value.
If it gives you value, then the meaning is there. Meaning is, you can assign it to whatever you want. I can assign it to the pen, for all I care, to anything. Yeah, exactly. So it really is up to the viewer, and then it's also up to the artist of what they want to reach to the viewer, if they want to communicate to the viewer at all. Thank you. Any other questions?
Based on the example you said of the Diriyah awards, I believe that understanding the meaning is understanding the heritage of this work. It's not the meaning of the art.
Yeah, but when you know more of it, once you know more, it's like meaningful more for you, and you feel like the properties of it is like richful. And once you know more of this mud bricks, it's not a simple wall. It just like it holds the community together as a hara, and that makes it rich actually.
I agree with you. It made it meaningful because it's a heritage. It's not because of the art.
Yeah, but any form of art must be meaningful. It doesn't have to be a canvas or a painting or...
Any other questions? All right, we'll conclude this debate for the evening. Thank you all for listening.